place, the home of the Montgomery County Historical Society. My name is Bob Wernle. I'm a member of the Oral History Committee of the Society, and the fellow we're going to interview today is Fred Whittington, a longtime resident of Montgomery County who served in World War II. This is a part of a series of interviews that we're doing of men of this county who served in World War II. Men and women, I should say. These tapes, these oral history tapes that we're making are one copy or two copies are going to be placed in the local history room at the Crawfordsville Public Library so that you can take them out and anybody can take them out, check them out like any library book. And we hope that they'll be there for a good many years to come. Fred, you understand that and you're willing to have that done. We hope too we can give you a copy of this tape for your family so that they'll have a record of what you did in World War II. Now, Fred, let's get started here by asking you where do you live, and give us your date of birth.
I was born October 11th, 1918, just 30 days before the armistice and before World War I. I live at 14 Watson Drive, just outside the city limits of Crawfordsville.
Who were your parents?
My parents were Fred and Grace Whittington of Crawfordsville. I'm junior.
You're a junior. You're a little bit beyond that.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And did you have brothers and sisters?
I have two brothers and one sister. I have a brother in Wisconsin, Dick. He married Yvonne Shields, which is comes from Montgomery County. Jack, my younger brother, lives in Crawfordsville. And my sister, Barbara, she married Ray Mackey, he's retired from the service, 30-year veteran. And that's,
now, I take it that you went to school here.
Yes,
in Montgomery County. You went to Crawfordsville High School. What class were you in?
Well, I've been class 36, but I got out before that. I shouldn't have, but I did. To work.
And where did you go to work?
I went to work in the meat market here in Crawfordsville.
Whereabouts? Which meat market?
Well, it was the one they call Bailey's. It was in the old Gravel Hair Store down on Washington Street. And, worked there I was an apprentice, and after I learned the trade, I worked in different stores.
And so what you were, I take it along about this time, why the war clouds were gathering around, and you got your draft number.
Yes, I got the letter from the president, and congratulations, you've been chosen, and here's your number. Really, I was ready to go at that time, and I went in the 7th of July, 1941. And I went inducted over to Fort Benjamin Harrison.
7th of July and 41, so that was about 6 months, a little less than 6 months before, 5 months before the war started. At that time, you were up at an age where you could have been married, where you were?
No, I wasn't married. I was still single. But I wanted to go. I wanted to get. See, they told us you'd only be going for a year. I thought, well, that's not bad. But it turned out that it was a little, almost 4 years.
Yeah. Now, when you were, you say you were drafted and you went in July. Do you remember the fellows that you went with? You remember where did you report down here to Crawfordsville?
Well, we reported down here where the German Review circulation offices. Now that was drafted.
Over on Market Street?
Over on Market Street, yeah. And they had one of those big old buses that used to run through here. And I think we had a bus load, but the ones I remember are Barney Ray and Dale Canada and Jim Sabins. I can't think of any more right now.
Any of those fellows around here now?
Dale Canada lives in New Ross, and Jim Sabins lives in Crawfordsville. Barney Ray is retired from the service, and he had a terrible stroke in 1975, but he still managed to get out. He lives here in Crawfordsville.
He lives in Crawfordsville?
Yes.
All right. Now, you reported to down here on Market Street. You drove over in a bus over to Fort Harrison. And where'd you get your physical exam?
I got mine at Terre Haute because I'd had, when I was young, I had tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
And when they found that out, they said, there's only two places in the district that you could get your physical. One was here and one was down Terre Haute. Well, they sent me to Terre Haute to have it.
That was then before
I was inducted.
And yet, even though you had tuberculosis, they took you.
Yes.
Well, now you must have had did you go down there? How did you get down to Terre Haute?
On bus. We had a bus went down at that time.
They took you down, did you?
They sent us down the bus, gave us a voucher for our noon meal, and then came back. There was somebody else that went with me, but I don't remember.
And did you, was there a big fanfare in the newspaper when you left?
Oh yes, yes. The newspaper was down there with their cameras, and took pictures of us, and of course we were the largest group to leave since the draft started.
Were you the first group to leave, or just?
No, I don't think so. I think that there might have been 2s and 3s leave. Of course, you had a chance to go into the National Guard too at that time, and I chose to go to the draft, and take my chances there.
And do you remember? Did your mother and dad come down there to the?
My mother did, my dad did, and my uncle, Everett Paxton, came down.
Everett Paxton?
Yes.
He was your uncle. And was it kind of a tearful farewell?
Not really. No, I was looking forward to it. I think my dad hated to see me, but, and mother too. But
I remember that myself because I was drafted. And when we went down to the place where we were leaving, my mother and dad came down. I think my brother and sister. And you got over to Fort Harrison. And what happened over there?
Well, we took our physicals, you know, and you go through the line, and each one has a little job that they perform. And we come in, then they took us after our physical. We went to get our clothes to Quartermaster. And they just said, what size do you wear? You know, you wear this size. You ask what size shoes you wear. I said, well, I wear an 8.5. He said, no, you don't. You wear a 9. So I had two pair of 9 shoes.
Those heavy brown shoes?
Yeah. And what size shirt? I said, 1532. They said, no, you're not. You got 33. And they said, what size trousers? I said, 32, 33. And they said, no, 33, 33. So,
did you get inoculations there?
Oh yes, one on each side of you. You walk through and they hit you on each side. And that's there's another story that when we get a little farther along.
Yeah, and what else happened there at the reception station over there?
Well, not much. We were inducted into the service, and we were given certain things that we had to do regarding when you And they meet an officer like you salute the officer, and they told you how to do it. And just the basic things. And,
I call that the reception. That was really the induction
station.
And where did you go from there?
I went from there down to Camp Lee, Virginia.
Were you all split up then?
Yes, we were. There was Barney Ray and I were together, and then we saw the first night we were there. We ran into some kid. He was walking down, he had his head down, and kind of kicking the grass, a lot of the rocks along the way. And so we said, "Hey, boy, where are you from?" He says, "I'm from Thorntown." We said, "Well, what's your name?" He said, "Bob McBain."
Bob who?
McBain.
Oh, okay.
And from that day on, we were the three together.
Oh.
And to this day, the three of us are still alive, and we get together quite often.
Does Bob McBain still live up at Thorntown?
He's up at Thorntown. One time he had the Ford Tractor Agency at Lebanon. So he retired from that.
Now, Fort Lee, Virginia, what was that? Was that a ordnance?
No,
that was a reception center.
No, it was a Quartermaster school.
Oh, okay.
They had cooks and bakers and mechanics, and they sent me to mechanic school. I was supposed to go to cook and baker school because I was a meat guy. I knew how to cut meat. But I got in the wrong group. I'm glad I did, because I was with some of the people I liked.
Uh-huh. And, okay, you take your basic training. Where'd you take your basic?
That's where I took basic training. We go to school a half a day and then infantry training a half a day.
Now, you went directly from Harrison to
Camp Lee.
Camp Lee. Well, now, you must have gone through a reception center somewhere along where they classified you.
Well, that was done at Fort Bend.
At Fort Bend, okay. You were interviewed at Fort Bend.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And so that you went directly from Crawfordsville to Fort Bend,
Yes.
and there you were. They received you. They interviewed you, and that's where you got your physical and everything else. Okay, and your basic training was taken at Fort Lee. And you remember how long was it? 13 weeks?
13 weeks, and I thought they was going to kill me.
Uh-huh.
The mechanic school was fine, but boy, that infantry, that was pretty rough.
Uh-huh.
And it was hot. I remember the day we got there, they lined us up out in front of the barracks. Pretty soon I hear a guy fall over, another one fall over here. It was hot and dry.
Uh-huh.
And we'd been on a train where it was kind of rather cool for a couple of days.
Uh-huh.
And we got down there and oh, it was hot.
But you and who was the other fellow who went?
Barney Ray.
Barney Ray went to Fort Lee, and then you at Fort Lee, did you live in those brick barracks, or were you in the wooden barracks?
We were in the wooden barracks.
And what else do you remember about your basic?
Well, I remember the food. We had, seemed like we had eggplant for breakfast. We had it for lunch, and sometimes we had it for dinner. And then they had bread, which, oh, it was good. It was something, these cooks and bakers, of course, they bake their own bread, and sometimes you get a loaf of bread about that big around, and sometimes you'd have one like that. They were never uniform. But it was good. It was real good. In fact, I had pretty good food all the time, except one time.
When did it happen that you, was it right there that you got into ordnance?
Yeah, no. See, the Army changed over from the motor vehicles, went into ordnance, and that was
From Quartermaster
to ordnance. And having been trained in the Quartermaster depth role, I was transferred.
Yeah.
that was quite a while down the line.
And what did you do next after you completed your basic?
We went to, I forget, it was Alexander, Virginia, where we got off the train, and the convoy met us there and took us over to Camp Hope, Louisiana. And it was 37th Quartermaster. And I was with them for quite a while. That was up until the time they began to change over from Quartermaster for the vehicles over to Ordnance. Now, why they did, I don't know, but that's the way they did. And I was in Camp Polk for
Camp Polk, Louisiana.
And I was there for quite some time. Let's see, from October 41 to September, I think it was either the last of August or 1st of September 42.
Now, Fred, you were in Ordnance working on vehicles. What kind of vehicles were you working on?
Trucks, mostly. That's what we repaired until I got into Ordnance, and then I was in. Well, I had quite a bit of experience working in the shop as a parts man. And they needed somebody in Ordnance. That's when they transferred me from. Well, at that time, our company had left Polk and had gone to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. And I got transferred back to Camp Polk. I had 1 hour to get my stuff ready to go overseas.
Were those the trucks you worked on? Were those old Studebakers?
We had some.
What were they? Studebakers and what else?
Studebaker, GMC, Dodge, and some Ford, and then of course the Jeep.
Yeah. All right. You say then you got your. It was in the following year, about a year later, you got your orders to go overseas. You had 1 hour to get back.
1 hour. We got in. We were transferred from Shelby over to Polk, back to Polk, and we had 1 hour to get separate our clothes.
Now, when you speak of we, who was?
Well, there was more or less a cadre that came from the third quartermaster over to.
Now, was your buddy with you? Were your two buddies?
No, I left them behind. I hated to, but I left them behind, and I went on over. And of course, I met other fellows.
Pardon?
I met other fellows, and
Yeah.
And we got along fine.
So that you really didn't stay with them for the rest of
No, I didn't stay with them. They all went different ways. The other two did. One went to OCS, and the other one was transferred to some other company.
Mm-hmm. All the while, were you a PFC or a private or what?
I was got up to T5. Was corporal.
Yeah. Now, when you were transported around, you were on trains, were you, for the most part?
Yes.
You remember those troop trains?
Oh, yes, very well.
What do you remember about them?
Well, the food on them, for one thing, the food was great. I don't know how those cooks managed to cook anything the way that train weaved back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
But the food was real good.
And when you were getting ready to ship out, where did you go?
I left from Chicago. We left Camp Polk and went to Chicago. And I remember standing guard out on the flat cars where we had our truck and everything. And we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Shipped out from there overseas.
Polk is in Louisiana. You went to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then you went to Fort Dix.
Fort Dix.
And you boarded a ship at Fort Dix.
I think it was. No, we weren't boarded. They took us to New York. We boarded in the Navy Yards in New York.
Okay.
We were on a small ship, SS Cephalid.
What was the name of it?
Cephalid.
How do you spell it?
I don't know.
Cephalid?
Cephalid.
Cephalid.
It was a little small ship that we sailed the Caribbean, and they had room for just a few passengers. And fortunately, I got one of the rooms on the A deck. I thought I really had something till we hit a storm, and and of course they changed directions every 6 minutes, so they couldn't be torpedoed.
Torpedo.
And one night we had this storm. It was so bad that they tied the guys in the gun turrets to them so they wouldn't fall overboard. And that ship rolled so much that it would roll over far enough to pick up water on the A deck and went right outside my door. And I didn't like that very well. That was when I would be over on the North Atlantic in the following year. That's a bad time to be in.
And so this would have been in October or?
Latter part of September. We left in New York and went to Nova Scotia, and of course they closed the gates and we didn't get in there in time. So we had an anchor out, and I don't know how they did it. Anyhow, I woke up the next morning. I got up and went out to get a breath of fresh air, and I saw this purser run. And then I saw something coming across, and looked kind of like something silver. I thought it might be a fish. So I just walked on up on the deck and watched it. And pretty soon I saw the purser, and I said, "What in the world were you running from?" He said, "Didn't you see what come across was in the water?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You know what it was?" I said, "No." He said, "It was a torpedo." This German U-boat had laid off, or sat there all night till morning, and then they took 2 shots at it. They shot one torpedo across the bow of the boat and one across the aft.
Mm-hmm. Neither one of them hit you.
Neither one of them hit us, thank the Lord.
They opened up, then you were anchored off the gates to the harbor. Mm-hmm. They opened them up in the morning, you went in.
And we were...
Was this at Halifax?
Yes, Halifax, Nova Scotia. And we went in we were there for 7 days, and we practiced, going over the side on Jacob's, what they call it, Jacob's ladder. Mm-hmm. And it was, we got in the boats and rode around the bay there and come back up. Really, it was good training in case we ever had, if we had about it.
Did you get to go ashore?
No, they wouldn't let us.
Uh-huh.
The Navy personnel got to go ashore, but we didn't.
Mm-hmm. How many of you were on that? How many Army people were you on that ship? You remember?
Let's see, 141 enlisted people and 6 officers.
Mm-hmm. Had you by that time been assigned to a unit? Okay, now what do you remember about, I take it after the end of the 7 days while you're ready to take off and join another convoy?
Yeah, we joined, we missed one convoy, and then the week later we picked up this other one. And it was an 8-knot convoy, which is very slow. And we ran into some bad weather, like I said a while ago. And we had a tanker off on this side of us, and that didn't suit me too well. Mm-hmm. But we let out I don't know what it's called, it's something that they put with water, and it causes kind of a rooster tail, like on a outboard motor.
Uh-huh.
Water goes up in the air. And that's what they guided us. They guided off us, we guided off of the ship in front of us. Mm-hmm. And then we had the Canadian ships were alongside escorting us. And this, every once in a while you see these little corvettes, they just take off, go out through there, and pretty soon they come back in a convoy. And as far as I know, we only had one really in alert, and that was when we were up almost to England. And there was depth charge, we could hear the depth charges going off. I don't know whether they got the sub or not.
How long were you on board ship from the time you left Halifax?
Let's see, it was about 21 days.
Now you had a cabin. You were pretty exclusive. Most of the fellows slept in hammocks, did they?
Well, yeah, and I was fortunate. And another thing, they sent me down to the kitchen to help cook. Well, I got down there and this fellow was Portuguese and I couldn't understand what he was saying. He couldn't understand what I was saying. And he was cleaning fish heads. I said, "What are you going to do?" I finally got across to him. He says, "Going to have soup, soup." I said, "Oh no, that's enough for me." And I went. They sent two of us down there. We turned around and left and said, "No, we're not going to do that." But later on, I found out that's a pretty good deal with to help them out down the kitchen.
You mean KP?
Yeah, well, not KP necessarily. We would be preparing food.
So that then you did you have some rough weather going over?
Oh, terrible! It was terrible. Some of it was, and then when we got started going down the Firth of Clyde, I said, "Who in the world is this Clyde guy? I'd never heard of Firth of Clyde before." And I finally found out it was just the name of the river. And we went down and docked. We had the British came aboard. Of course, they had to count everybody who was there, and cost the United States government so much for each person who went on ashore. So after they got that done, they loaded us on a train and sent us down to the southern part of England.
I don't understand when you say it cost the United States so much for everybody that landed.
Everybody that.
How did you know that?
Well, they came aboard, and one of the fellows was asking what they were doing. And they said they had came aboard to find out how many people were there and how many people would be on the English soil. I don't understand it, but that's the way it worked.
No, you were put ashore there, and you got on a train then, did you?
Yeah, one of those English trains. We went through Bristol, I know, on the way down to the southern part of England, southeast, and it had an air raid there the night before. And the glass, they had a lot of glass in the station, and there was glass everywhere. And we didn't even stop. We just went and just keep right up and
went through Bristol. Right? And what was your destination?
Down around the cliffs of Dover. Or just a few miles from there.
From near Dover?
Yes. And then we stayed there for, I think a couple of weeks. And believe it or not, wigwams.
Wigwams?
Yeah. Like the Indians had. And they were made out of canvas. And you slept with your head out toward the end of the tent, and your feet toward the middle. And everybody had that way you'd have enough room for your garbage bag.
Now, were the Americans cooking their own food, or were you, by that time, the British taking over and running these mess halls?
No, we had our own cooks.
You did.
And we did. They did a fantastic job with what they had to work with. And from there we went on up to Ash Church, which is right outside.
Ash Church?
Yeah, just outside of Gloucestershire. And we had there was a depot there, and we put filled our. Well, they issued us our trucks. They were semis. And we built shelves in there for the different parts we would be carrying.
Parts?
Yeah, parts for for our trucks.
Okay.
And then of course, we had guns and half tracks and tanks, and we had to take parts for those. And we loaded up what we needed. And then on the 10th of November, we set sail for North Africa. And it was rather peaceful. We had 65 ships, and they were all carried personnel.
Again, in a
convoy. As we came through the Straits of Gibraltar, I was standing on the deck, and I looked out, and here came a sub up out of the water. Oh my land! And of course, it was one of ours. We didn't need to worry about it. That was something to see.
Mm-hmm. That was the only sub you saw.
That's the only sub I saw until I got out of service.
Uh-huh. Going through the Straits of Gibraltar, tell us what that was like.
Well, we didn't. We could see land, but that's about all.
Uh-huh.
But I was surprised at how calm it was after from coming from the Atlantic into the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
We went just a short distance there. We went into Oran, North Africa.
That's in Algiers.
Algiers.
What kind of a ship or were you on from England to?
I was on the Mariposa. Have you ever heard of it? It's one that,
Yes, that was a passenger.
yeah, that's the one we went to.
Big passenger
Yeah,
ship.
California.
How many people were aboard that?
I don't know. There was
That was a large
it was
ship.
a large ship, and it carried quite a few.
Mm.
And it was very, that's where I volunteered to work in the kitchen there. So one night after we got through, why we'd cook us another meal. So I had 4 meals a day going. And this one guy said, that's in charge, he said to me, he said, get us some meat out so we'll have cook some meat for supper, for the lunch we have about midnight. I said, all right. So I went in the cooler, and there was a short loin in there. That's where the T-bones are. I cut that thing up. About the time I cut the last steak off, he come down and he says, what'd you do? He says, that's for the officers.
Oh.
I said, no, not tonight. We're going to have those tonight. So that was one of the fun things that happened. You had to have some fun things to happen, but it was the way you go.
Yeah.
Over the wall.
I think we all had that. Now you've got, you went ashore then at Oran. And what happened at Oran?
Well, we finished, we got all our trucks and everything together. And when we got everything ready to go, which took about, well, I expect 3 weeks by the time we got our trucks. They came on a different ship than we did. And when we got our trucks and everything, and they got the parts in where they were supposed to go, we took off for Tunisia, just inside the Tunisian border.
Now what time is this? What's the date?
Let's see, right there. This is November the 10th we left. We got there about the 15th. And I expected around Thanksgiving we were
That would have been in 1942.
Thanksgiving 42. We were in and had our depot set up. And
By this time you'd heard of Rommel, I suppose.
Oh yes. One of the finest generals there's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see him on our side with George Patton.
Yeah.
George Patton was the commander at one time down in North Africa.
Now, do you remember some of those officers, some of those generals?
Oh yeah.
Remember Patton then, obviously?
Oh yes, you definitely know Patton. Patton's headquarters at one time was right down the road from our depot. And when he came by, you'd better have your helmet on, and you'd better have either sidearms or a rifle. And you'd better give him a high salute him, or he'd come back and tell you about it.
Mm-hmm.
One of our fellows one time was riding the courier, and he left his helmet off. He just had the under part of the helmet on.
Yeah, the liner.
And Patton stopped his car and turned around and took off after him. And when he caught up, that guy said, I've had some people get on me and eat me up. He said, nothing like that guy did. He won battles. A lot of them called him blood and guts. His guts and your blood, but he won battles. I think he was a great general.
Do you remember any of the other generals down there?
Let's see, Friedendall was down there.
Friedendall?
And, I forget that. What's his name? It started with a B. What was that? But they were... Bradley. Yeah, it was...
Now, okay, you got all your equipment there, you got your trucks and everything, and what did you do then?
Well, we left Oran, a little town right outside of Oran. And we'd been there about 3 weeks, and of course we were all greenhorns, and one night they had an air raid. And one single plane came over, and all of us got out. We were just looking around to see. That's the first time we ever did anything like that. So we went on to loaded our trucks up, and we went on to Tunisia, just inside the border. There was no town. We were just out in the middle, just right across the border from Algeria into Tunisia. And we were there, and in 48 hours, we had to go back. I was sent back to Oran to order more parts. They cleaned us out, but there was no ordnance up there. No parts depot at all. And when we come up there, well, they took everything we had, about everything we had. Some of the stuff we had to put together in order for them to have, like the front wheel drive on a truck. And we had to put that. I put several of those together, so they could go ahead and run the truck.
Now, are you telling me that the first airplane you saw was down there in Tunisia or Algeria? There haven't been any air raids in England, or
not where I was.
Even down on when you were out in the Atlantic Ocean, you saw no airplane. What about the American and the Allied Air Force?
Well, we've seen some of those, but nothing. Like, of course, after we had to pull back for some reason. I don't know why we pulled back. I know we had to go on south to just Ambia, I think was the name of it. Now,
what was the name of it?
Ambia.
Ambia?
Ambia.
Okay.
And it was just a small Arabic town. No French were in there. And we were about 5 miles out. Then we began to see more aircraft going over. We see and later on whenever we moved a little forward, they began to bomb the less oil fields. And I've seen thousands of planes at a time go over the bomb.
You mean Allied planes?
Allied planes, yes.
To see any of the German planes or the Italian planes?
I never saw an Italian plane. I've seen some German planes. Our company waterproofed the invasion for Sicily. That came along in the 1943. And we inspected and waterproofed all the vehicles that went into Sicily invasion.
Oh, the Italians were still in the fighting at that time.
Well, they put the Italians, the Germans were back here in Italy, they put the Italians in front of them and said, you're either going to fight the Americans or you're going to fight, or we're going to shoot you. And that's actually what they said. And of course they'd give up if there was any chance at all, they'd surrender. And I've seen the barbed wire fences, that's where they just had. I don't know how they slept, I don't know how they fed all those people.
The Italians that were captured,
The Italians captured, the Germans that were captured. They'd haul them back as fast as they could. The quartermaster would haul supplies up and take a load of prisoners back. And I seen, like one guy says, yeah, says, you're going to be over here, I'm going to be over in the United States, and I'll hear about the World Series. Oh, you son of a gun.
You mean this was a German?
German, he could speak English. We had a bunch of, a group of cooks that did an excellent job. We were on British ration for a while. We had hairless oxtail stew, steak and kidney pudding, rice and raisins, tea, hardtack. Man, that was terrible. So I told this one lieutenant, I said, do you care if I go fishing and get some fish? Cook them? He says, no, go ahead. So I went, I got one of the fellows to go with me, and I took some concussion grenades. The first one we threw in, why, there were just 4 or 5 fixtures, belly up. Threw in another one, and boy, there were just fish coming up from everywhere. So this fellow went with me, he could swim, I can't swim. He went out there and he says, I thought they were just little small fish, and they were about like that. And we took off our undershirts and filled our undershirts with fish. And we went back up to the company area. This lieutenant said, what'd you get? And I said, we showed him. He said, go up and get what you need to cook them in. He said, we can't cook them in the mess hall because it hadn't been inspected. So I went and got and I told mess hall, sergeant what I was going to do, what I needed. And he says, here, take this, this, and this. And he said, I'm going down cooking for you. And so we fed about half the company that night on the fish.
Now, where would you have a lake where you catch
This
fish?
is Mediterranean Sea.
In the Mediterranean?
Yeah, we were only about a mile from the Mediterranean this one. We were bivouacked in a cork grove. Cork, like in champagne bottles, you know. And I thought that they just, I didn't know how they did it. That cork grows about that thick on that tree, and they'll peel that off, and then they'll make cork out of it. And in a few years, it grows back, and they do it again.
Now, are you in Tunisia now when this is happening?
No, we were still in Algiers. And,
well, now, I take it that you started moving forward, though, moving east,
yes.
did you? Was Rommel still in charge?
Oh, yes, very much in charge. We were in Tunisia when he broke through Kasserine Pass, if you remember that. And the Kasserine Pass, we thought we had that where it was safe. In fact, our depot was only about 2 miles from Kasserine Pass. And we took it easy. We had our guards out. We were about a quarter of a mile from the highway. And this morning, the sergeant got out there and blowing that whistle, and I said, what's the matter? I looked at my watch, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And the second time we blew the whistle, I thought, well, we better get out there, something wrong. So they assembled, and they said that we got to move back, that the Germans broke through at Kasserine Pass. And we started loading up and getting our stuff ready. I worked for 72 hours straight driving a truck to hauling ordnance material out of the depot that we have stored.
Trying to save the ordnance.
Save everything we could. And but the Air Force come to the rescue, and they dropped incendiary bombs and gasoline, and that put a stop to it. He went right on, anyhow, he went right on, went out to the peninsula, Tunisian peninsula.
He got through.
Oh, yeah. He was a wonderful gentleman. That might not be nice to say, but out of him, he was smart. He knew what he was doing.
Now, the attack, I didn't quite understand this. You said they put the Italians out the front? Now, when they broke through Catherine Pass with the Italians?
I don't think they had any Italians then. They were, because I don't think he'd take a chance at something like that. As important as that was when they came through that pass. Later, after it was over, I'd gone down there and gone through there. I don't know how in the world they got all their equipment through it like they did. It was right on the edge of the Sierra Desert.
All right. Now, what's our time here? Where are we?
Let's see. That had to be in May or June. I'm not sure.
In other words, you'd gone through the winter. Tell us, what about the winter? How was the winter out down there on the desert?
Well, we weren't on the desert. We were on a high plateau all the time we were in there, and of course, Catherine was on the desert, and it was warm down there. But up where we were at, up on the plateau, we had snow, and I told people that, and they say, "Yeah, in Africa you had snow." I mean, you sure did. Of course, high altitude. But
yeah, the Atlas Mountains, is that what those?
I don't know what they were.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Don't know enough about the Atlas Mountains.
I never thought to look.
But they were up high, and
we were up high.
Did you have warm-up clothing?
Well, yes, we had clothing to keep you warm, but that was there for a while. It was pretty rough. You ate outside in the cold, and you slept outside in the cold, and you weren't warm any time. And when you went to bed cold, and you got up, you got up cold.
After when Rommel broke through the Catherine Pass, what did your outfit do?
We pulled back. I expect 20 miles, and waited, and then we moved on up toward Missouri. After that.
Missouri?
Yeah. Ernie Pyle was in our area at one time.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Felton, Dana.
Was it at that time?
Yeah, just before Catherine Pass.
Ernie Pyle was there.
Yeah. He was
Did you ever see him?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Talked to him a little bit. Real nice fellow to talk to. I always thought a lot of it. Enjoyed his column in the paper.
Why don't we take a little break here? We've been talking for about an hour. You know that? Here we are back again. During this pause, I forgot to mention when we introduced this thing, our camel work today is being done by Mike Hall. You met Mike, who is our executive director here at Lane Place, and Mike has done a lot of these tapes, and he's heard a lot of interesting stories. Fred, during the recess here, you mentioned about this fellow that had such a time with getting shot. Tell us about that story.
Well, he was a young man, and he was not really just slim built like I was. And he came around, and he says to these 6 out of the 6 fellows out there, he says, "Will you fellows hold me down while they give me my shot?" He said, "If you don't, I'm going to jump overboard." He says, "I'm just scared to death to have a shot."
Was this on
board ship going to England.
And then you really did that?
Yeah, there were 6 of us that held him down. And I do believe that he would have jumped overboard. And of course, they didn't stop to pick you up. You're grown.
Okay, I think that when we stopped, where were we?
Well, I think we were up in Tunisia, someplace around just short ways from Missouri. We had, we moved our depot up there, and at that time, that was after the Germans had evacuated and left. We had...
they had retreated east?
They were going out north, out through Tunisia. And, or not, yeah, Tunisia. And they brought our... when they gathered up all the ordnance material, they brought it to our depot. And we had a pile of rifles and these stem guns that they had.
You mean the Germans?
The German one after they left. See, they left their guns and everything.
And you had all that?
They gathered it up and brought it into us. And
so what would you do with that?
It was, last I seen it was still piled up out there in a big pile. It was piled up, oh, about twice as big as these two rooms, and just as high, maybe a little higher.
Of German
ordnance equipment. And they had, we got some of the trucks. We got Rommel's command car. Had that to run around in for a while until one of the generals wondered we had to use it up. And they had their mess car or trucks.
Were you able to use their trucks?
No, we didn't. Well, we used some of them. We had one of these. You know, have you seen these? I think they got about 8 wheels on each side. And it was kind of a command car where they carried probably a company at a time, because you could set 4 abreast in that. We had one of those, and we had a lot of fun with that. We had a motorcycle. I rode that motorcycle. That's the only one I ever rode. I was scared of it. I'm scared of any motorcycle. But that was a nice piece of equipment, and their diesels were far superior to anything we had. Their anti-aircraft and the artillery gun that they had was German 88.
German 88.
And it would traverse from straight out. And they could use for anti-aircraft or artillery, either one. It was a good piece of, we had some of those. We had, of course, some of us would go down, we went down and we got into the mess trucks that they had. Well, they had black bread in there, and they had cheese, and dill pickles, and the cheese was great, and the dill pickles were good, but I couldn't say too much for the bread. I know that. Have our own. One time we were in North Africa, we could smell a bakery someplace. And the master sergeant come to me and said, "Let's go find that bakery." I said, "All right, let's." And so we jumped the jeep, and we drove about 5 miles just by following our nose, and we found that bakery. And the nicest bunch of guys. It was the first time we'd had any baked goods, bread like we use, for about 3 months. And they gave us bread right out of the oven. It brought us a pound of butter, brought us blackberry cobbler to eat. I said, "What can we do for you guys?" But then they started supplying bread for the people there.
That was now, did you ever encounter any Germans or any battalions in your, other than prisoners, did you ever get close enough to see any of them?
No, I've seen some dead ones, that's all. I saw a dead German lady that she's parachuted in and behind the lines, and when she's coming down, somebody shot her right through the head. That was down at the graves.
Well, a German lady parachuting into behind the lines? Well, what was the occasion for that?
Well, she was back there as a prostitute and get information.
Oh. Well, now we're at Bizerti, and what did you do next?
Well, we had a big air raid there one night, and it was on the 7th of July, I believe, 6th or 7th of July. And I saw 5 German planes shot down. Our anti-aircraft was out for the searchlights. Of course, they had searchlights, and we didn't. They're out of style now. And when they get one of those planes and they cross, he was gone. I seen him. There was one that went right over our head and crashed out in the desert. And the funny thing happened. We had a French coastal gun right behind us, and the Frenchmen were manning it. And during this air raid, while they got out there, and we were standing right underneath. They were up on the hill, and they fired that French 75. I don't know what they were firing at, but they couldn't be an airplane because it wouldn't go up high to shoot an airplane. But it was fun. It was an experience.
Well, now let's move on. Where are we going from here?
Okay, we went from North Africa to Sicily. We landed in Palermo.
How'd you get across the straits there?
We went on LST, that's the front end down, it's got a flat bottom.
Yeah.
And everybody was sick on the ship, and I went down, laid down beside the mess truck there on the deck. Pretty soon the mess truck broke loose, and I got left there, got the guy to tie it down again. And but we went over on LST, landed in Palermo, and then we went from.
You landed at Palermo. Where did you take off from Tunisia?
Off out of Lake Missouri.
Lake Missouri. Okay. And you landed at Palermo, and what was Palermo had already been occupied by the Allies?
Yeah, they'd already been through there, and and I don't think we'd been there for 2 or 3 days, and they sent a few of us down to Licata, was one of the beaches where they came in to Sicily, and we cleaned up down there the ordnance material, and came back up to Palermo, and about that time they moved us on out to Marseille, Marcel, I think it is. It's where they make a certain type of wine.
Oh, Marcella.
Yeah.
Marcella wine.
Yeah.
That's in Sicily? Okay.
And we were there, I was there just a few days, and then they sent me on out to an Italian depot, parts depot, where I let them come back, and we, at that time, I was there for, maybe a couple, 3 weeks. And then went off to Palermo and joined the company, or Marcel, and joined the company, and then we went across to Italy.
Crossing the straits there, that's where the rocks are, and you're pretty rough going across it.
Terribly rough, and they say that's probably one of the deepest places in the ocean is that cross there in Sicily.
Scylla and Charybdis. You ever hear those terms?
What?
Scylla and Charybdis.
No.
That's like being between a rock and a hard place.
That's where we were.
That's what they called it in ancient times, and it's a pretty rough place. And you landed where?
Reggio Calabria.
Reggio Calabria. All right. Then was your outfit still together?
Oh yes. We were in convoy, and every time we had a convoy, I always caught the biggest piece of equipment to drive that they had. I don't know why, all but once. And one time I got a Jeep, no top on it, pouring down rain. And that's the rest of the time I always had a big truck, using Diamond T, 4-ton, and when we were traveling in Sicily, going up to cross this Messina. I was driving this 4-ton Diamond T. I had a load of axles on the rear axles on the truck, and it was holding a 155 millimeter howitzer on the back. Went through a tunnel, and just as I got through that tunnel, it had a flash of lightning. And if I hadn't been to that lightning, I'd have drove right straight over the hill and down into the, I wouldn't be here today. And
I mean, I don't understand.
well, when I came out of this tunnel, we were driving with cat eyes. You know what? You remember what they looked like on the trucks?
No, I don't.
They were about a quarter of an inch long, about 1/8 of an inch wide, and they were formed in a triangle. And that's all we had to drive by. We couldn't put on our headlights. We didn't have any headlights. And when we come through this tunnel, I couldn't see anything. That lightning flashed, and boy, I was sure thankful for that. And I got around that turn.
In other words, it was an abrupt turn, and
Yes.
you would have drawn over the side.
Oh, yeah.
And this was in Italy or Sicily? Sicily. Well, now, we've gotten across those straits there, and we're over in Italy now.
Yeah, where'd you go out there?
And where did you go? What happened then?
Well, we left, the bridge was washed out. They had a bridge washed out, and instead of waiting for the engineer's lights, the captain decided we could ford the creek. That was a mistake. We got about half of our equipment across, and here come another storm, and we almost lost part of our equipment. But we got across. Then we started up into Italy, went on up to Naples. That was our. And from there, we were. That's where we were staying the rest of the time. We were in a base depot at that time. It was not too. I didn't like it. I'd rather be out in the field. But a lot of them did because there's a lot to do up there. I'd rather be out in the field. Why?
Had Monte Cassino come along about that time, or when was that?
That was later.
Okay.
We got up there just after the Germans had gotten out of Naples. And I went out with the mess truck to the ordnance depot to pick up food. And there was a bunch of horses as the Germans had that they'd killed laying along the road. And about 3 days later, I went back there, and all there was skeletons of those horses. Those people were so hungry they ate the meat off the horses.
Oh my!
They were in terrible shape. Germans took everything they had, and they didn't have too much to start with.
Were the Italians in the war at this time?
No.
They were already out.
They were in Naples. We had several air raids, and I know one time we had an air raid, and a fellow jumped right on. I was glad I heard the plane come out of his dive, and he dropped a bomb on the roundhouse, which was right close to us, and he killed a young man when he might have got killed with it. If he'd had a string of bombs, why, he would have gotten us too. This one guy, he weighed about 250, and boy, he landed right on top of me. And
he was killed and he landed on?
No, the fellow, the fellow in the roundhouse got killed. Where they worked on the trains, he was killed. And then this fellow was with me. He was in the, working there at the depot. He was a new man. First time he ever been in
air raid.
Air raid.
He was frightened and he landed on top.
Landed on top of me. And then we got up and started for the air raid shelter. And I got hit with a piece of flak from that into the nose.
They give you a Purple Heart for that?
No, I wouldn't accept it.
Uh-huh.
If I had been in combat and got wounded, yes, I would.
Oh.
Another interesting, I met a fellow from here that was Jerry Tilney. I don't know if you ever knew him or not.
Tilney?
Yeah.
Used to run a shoe repair?
No, he was in the, I think there was some relation, but he was a young fellow. And nice young man. And he was in the paratroopers. And he was telling me some of the things that he did. And I went out there with him one day, out there, or he invited me out to their barrack. You don't go out there unless you're invited. Prepared to present at that time, because I couldn't even get a message to anybody. And we finally got together, and I went out there one day, and he gave me a piece of a parachute. He said, "This is off the German I shot." He said, "This German plane would come in all off of the Mediterranean, and it was a Vanzio, and he'd fire on the hospital there. And they saw him coming, and he placed his men. He had a BAR squad. That's Browning automatic rifle.
Yeah, I know BAR.
And
shot one myself.
and he positioned his men, and they shot this plane down. And this navigator he got the plane down on the ground, and he got out and started to run. And Jerry told him to stop. He wouldn't do it. And he shot him. He got parachute. I got a piece of that, but I don't have it anymore.
Now you're in Italy now, and you're near Naples.
I'm in Naples.
How'd you find Naples at that time?
The filthiest place I ever saw in my life. They had people were the United States bombed along the harbor area there, dock area, and there were people still in those bombed out houses that they never went and got to clean, or never cleaned it up, and the odor was terrible.
Oh.
And I didn't care much for Naples. We had a lot of air raids there, and at that time we were there, Vesuvius erupted.
Oh, it did.
And that was something to see. I'd like to have a VCR like that.
Yeah, gee would.
Oh my, that was a beautiful sight. And yet they said if that ash had come over us, that we wouldn't have been able to stand it because of so much of the oxygen.
Yeah. Did you get to see the ruins there, where
in Pompeii?
Yeah. Did you go? You were there.
Down there.
Was that a part of the battle or anything, or
no? It seemed like when they first went in, they had a pretty good battle. But after that, it was on when they went on up to Naples, and then north of Naples was where they started the battle, and then on up to Casino. And I wasn't up in there. I did go to Rome afterwards, over on a 5-day leave. Just before I came home.
All right. What'd you do then?
In Naples, we were stationed in a depot there, and one time I was driver for the company commander, and then I worked as a parts man for one of the divisions. They set up for GMC and let's see, we had autocar and Jeeps, and I was the one that I took care of parts and took care of order and stuff.
You were working on cars, or just working?
No, I was working in a depot where we had parts, and we'd send them out to the maintenance companies.
So, where are we in time now?
Well, this is getting about 1944. Let's see. Yeah, 44. Because we were there at Thanksgiving. Excuse me. We were there
44?
In 1944. We were in Naples at Thanksgiving time and Christmas. And I was in Rome on leave on 44 and 45 for New Year's.
How did the battalion people receive you?
Well, if you had something to give them, they were great. If you didn't, I never had any trouble with any of them. I tried to treat them like I'd want to be treated. But I've been in a lot of homes. had dinner sometimes with them.
Uh-huh.
Of course, you'd leave a little money when you had dinner with them.
Uh-huh.
I had no problem.
Yeah. Did you see any more famous people besides Patton and Ernie Pyle along the way?
Well, I saw Pompey, Sicily, and saw Betty Grable.
They were traveling with the USO.
Yeah. Then there were some different, some smaller, people, not the notoriety that they had.
Uh-huh. Did you ever get sick along the line and have to go to the hospital?
I got sick in England. I had dysentery.
Uh-huh.
They had.
That was before you.
Yeah, that was before we got down there. As far as down there, I was. Well, the only time I got sick is when we started taking the Atterbury. I don't know if you did that or not.
Atterbury?
Yeah, it's a substitute for quinine.
Yeah, for malaria.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little sick then, but after I got used to it, it was all right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, did you stay in Naples the rest of the time?
Yes, till I came home. I came home in April of 1945 on a 30-day leave. I had, then they extended it to 45 days. And on the 10th of May, the day I was to return to Camp south of Indianapolis there.
Oh, Atterbury?
Atterbury. Why when I reported back in, said don't go any place. If you leave to go to the PX or any place, tell somebody where you're at. Says we're going to discharge you. They couldn't have pried me away from that place. I was discharged on the 12th of May, 1945.
You did get out early?
Yes, I did. I was the first one out of the county.
Uh-huh.
On the point system.
How did you get back to the States?
I came back on the troop ship, Yes Grant, I think it was the name of it. And we came through the Straits of Gibraltar, and just as soon as we hit the Atlantic, we hit 45-foot ground swells. That boat would go up and come down and slap that water, and then the back end would go up, and you hear that prop go around.
Mm-hmm.
But it's and we were 10 days. We had no escort coming back.
The subs were pretty much.
Yeah, they were.
Over.
It was about over.
Mm-hmm.
And this Tillman, Jerry Tillman, I was telling you about, he got killed in southern France, and he had one of his men was pinned down by sniper fire, and he went out to draw fire from the sniper. The sniper shot him.
Mm-hmm.
He was I wish he could be here to tell you some things.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me a lot.
Jerry Tillman.
Jerry Tillman.
Mm-hmm. When I came, I remember years ago, there was a Tillman shoe repair shop there. I forget where it was down. I don't know just where. Now, you were, I suppose, there was a little bit of fanfare when you were discharged too then, coming back so soon.
Yeah, yeah, at home especially.
Did they write you up in the newspaper?
Oh yeah, I did quite a write-up. It was, I enjoyed it, and I appreciated it. I'd gladly do it again if I could.
Mm-hmm.
I'm concerned about our country today.
Mm-hmm.
In so many different places. I'm afraid we're going to run into another Vietnam.
Yeah. Now you were, when you got out of the service, did you have a girlfriend back home?
No, at that time I didn't. My present wife was the girl I was going with when I wasn't serving. She'd even been down singing John Camp Pope. She'd gotten married. She married a Marine. And so when I come back, I married, we got married about 6 months after. Married Jeanette Sheets.
Married Jeanette Sheets.
That's Walter Sheets.
Walter Sheets' daughter?
Willie Sheets' sister.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And got married, she passed away. 15 years ago.
15 years. Do you have, what children did you
I
have?
have one child. He's has his own business down in Missouri. He makes ceramics. He's doing real well.
That was by your first wife?
I have two stepsons. And I have one great-grandson. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. And then I have step-grandchildren. I have two girls and a boy. And
let's talk a little bit about this offspring that you've got.
All right.
Who are they? Where are they?
Well, my son, like I said, he's in Missouri, about 60 miles north of Springfield, on southwest Missouri. He has the ceramic business, a wholesale ceramic business, and he's doing real well, I think. And
how many children does he have?
He has two. He has a girl and a boy. The girl's married, and she has a little boy. I'm going down there next week to see him. And then on my wife's side, those children are just about like my own grandchildren. Art Schuler, he was...
Who?
Art Schuler, that was her oldest son. He and his wife moved up here from Jeffersonville. And then at that time they had a little girl. And after they moved up here, where they had a son, and he thinks I'm his granddad. Of course, he never saw his grandfather, and the daughter either.
Now, was your present wife, what was her name?
Thompson. Her name was Thompson. Maiden name was Thompson. She married Merle Schuler, who was a Marine, and he got wounded over in the Pacific where he was. A couple of times.
And were they divorced? Or?
Oh no, he died.
He died.
And he had cancer and died.
And you married, and your wife had died, so you married, your former sweetheart.
Yeah. We kind of mixed up there. But we get along. And I love those grandchildren.
You probably see more of those grandchildren because they're here.
Well, I got the granddaughter. Yeah, she started Butler this year.
You started at Butler.
And she's valedictorian in her class. And
where did she go to school?
Greenfield. I live in Greenfield. And she's studying some kind of mathematics that's beyond me. And she's going to take 4 years of it. I don't understand it, but she does. And this grandson, he's quite a sport. He's good in sports. His coordination is wonderful. And he plays golf, and boy, does he ever clean my block. He beats me every time I play. I'm glad to say it, but and then he plays basketball, baseball.
Yeah. Now, what about your own siblings, your brothers and sisters? What about happened to them?
Oh well, I have a brother. My brother next to me is Dick. He's in Mouston, Wisconsin. He worked for the state, Wisconsin. He and his wife they're both retired now, and he has a beautiful home that sits up on a big high bank that looks down on the Wisconsin River. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And my brother Jack, he just retired a year ago from Donnelly's. And my sister...
Was Jack in the service too?
No, Jack never...
He was too young.
Dick was in the service. He was in the Navy. I had more time on the sea than he did. He was Naval Avionics, or Naval Air Corps. And my sister, she's down in Columbia, South Carolina. Settled down there after he retired from the service.
So after you got out of the service, what did you do then?
I went to work for Midspace. Well, my dad was working out there. But the noise got the best of me. I had to get out, and I had a chance to go to work the meat market, I did, and that didn't pan out, and then I went to Donnelly's. I spent the rest of my working life at Ordnance.
And when did you retire?
1980.
80. How old are you now?
75.
Huh? Pretty good. Anything else about your recollections that we've missed?
Well, I don't know. I probably have, but that's about everything.
Anything that you'd like to have your grandkids remember you for?
I think we've got quite a bit of it right now.
All right. Well, let's just cut this one off, and I sure do thank you. And it's been a good interview, and you've been a good interviewee.
Thank you very much. It's been interesting.
You know, Fred, I asked, we stopped this thing, but I want to ask you one more thing. You mentioned keeping in touch with some of the fellows that you knew that went with you. Do you ever get together in a reunion with your outfit?
We did shortly after the war was over, but it kind of fell apart. Everybody was scattered from coast to coast, from border to border, and we just couldn't get everybody.
Were you with one outfit all the way through?
All the way through from after I left the States, yeah.
And are you sure that they don't have reunions of that outfit?
Not anymore. We did, but they don't give them up.
What about these fellows that you were with? You're still in touch with them?
Yeah. In fact, Friday night we're going up to Thorntown, and Matt's an expert cook when it comes to cooking country ribs out on the grill. We're going to have country ribs Friday night, and we'll have a good time.
The three of you?
Yeah. Our wives.
Now you mentioned Tilney that you met from here. Did you meet any other fellows?
Yeah, I met Bob Kitts, who was, the Kitts gravel.
Yes.
I met Bob on board ship going from Sicily from North Africa to Sicily. And then I met a fellow named Taylor, Melvin Taylor. You probably know Melvin.
Yes.
I met his brother over in Naples. But that's about all.
But that's the extent of it.
That's about the extent.
Well, I think we'll quit.
All right. Thank you for that.